Hello and welcome to the River Shame and Ramblings podcast where I ramble a lot. Sometimes I make sense and sometimes I don't. Woo, this is going to be a doozy of an episode because I am unpacking something that I have been dealing with over the past year that I had to come to some conclusions about, not just regarding the matter, but regarding myself and having to eat a little bit of humble pie. And, it's all good. It's not all, well, actually, it's not all good at all. It's pretty messy. But I want to share this with you. There is a paper at academia.edu about this wonderful topic. Many of you may be interested in this. Spirit spousing, also known as God spousing. It's a little paper called, and I'm looking off to the side here, When God Had Sex, the Practice of Spirit Marriage in Ecstatic Spirituality. And it's by Megan Rose. It came out in 2010, and I found it at academia.edu because I was researching my own problem. I didn't get very far into the paper, I have to admit, because at the time I was having some trouble, and I really didn't have the 50 minutes it would take to sit and read her paper. It looks like it's a good paper, and her reading style is very engaging, but life was being really, really big time, hard life at the time, and it was hard for me to do anything academic. But what I like about how the paper starts, she says, the subject of spirit marriage is a topic both near and dear to my heart. Therefore, in researching spirit marriage, I have sought to find context for it within a tradition or traditions that will both honor it as a unique and valid transpersonal experience, as well as help to contextualize the subtle forces at play in these non-ordinary realms. To this end, I have sought research material that would offer a perspective on spirit marriage that honors it as a sacred and mystical experience, one that can be seen as a kind of hybrid between human marriage and divine union. But then she goes on to say, modern academic research on the subject of spirit marriage and the topic of sexual encounters with spirit entities is regrettably slim. And she's right, and that's what I was having trouble with. I was turning to so many people because my particular spirit spouse situation, well, I think caustic is a nice word for it. I, as I said, did not get to finish reading her paper. And I think with the way she approaches it in a more, reverent attitude, sadly reverent. I think that where there might be some good information in her paper for me, it might also have misled me. Now, when it came out to my teacher that I had reached out to her, because she seemed to feel that she didn't have enough contacts, judging by her bio and things she had said, I reached out to her about mine, and it was, you reached out to her without reading her paper, totally talking down to me. And that's another caustic situation that I will deal with another day. Fortunately for me, I keep a log. I've been keeping a log for over a year now. And I happen to pay for a AI service that is not ChatGPT. It's built for research and asking questions and where can I find this paper and stuff. I don't really think it's wise to have it write for you, no more than having ChatGPT write for you, for the record. And boy, do I get into arguments with it about whenever I want to explore something outside the box, it will have a fit. But I plugged my logs into it one day, and it spit out to me all of the things about spirit spousing that I already knew were a thing from my own research. But when I looked at the items, I realized that my situation was not a good one, and chances are really high others are in the same boat. So whenever I talk today about spirit spousing, and the name of this particular episode is Spirit Spousery, not a fad, not a dream, and not always fun, otherwise known as the arrogant pride of marriage. When I speak about this spiritual phenomenon, I'm speaking as someone who has experienced it, who has read many anthropological papers touching upon it, that has read a few religious papers from the exorcist corner of spirituality about some of the side effects and problems that come of it. And I have come out of the other side with some, I'm opinionated now. Let's put it that way. I have opinions. You see, my marriage to a spirit who presented himself as, Loki. It was interesting in the beginning, and yes, it was a trick after a fashion. And I was mad at first. Yeah, I was mad. But it had spirit witnesses. We even did a marriage dance and traded wine, and yeah, he watched my goblet tilt when I took my draught, with a predatory and villainous watchful eye to end all villainous eyes as the trap shut on me. From then on, I was captured into a web of future horrors. And when you're doing that, what they do, as I have mentioned in many other podcasts and on the blog, the ego machine is fed. And that ego is how they keep you. They make it where you think you're fine and strong and amazing and can stand above all. And truthfully, we can, just not in the fashion they want you thinking you can. And so you go through all of these dream scenarios and you have dreams and you're not actually practicing your actual skills. And so if you were to be put into the real test so that you had to defend yourself for real, you'd have no muscle because all you did was sit around dreaming on the couch playing Nintendo. So you get tangled in the dream and your real talents fall to the wayside. Then they hobble you. You see, it's all about managing the livestock and nothing about building you up to the stars, no matter what they say. At first, they tried to tell me I was the queen of heaven. I rejected it, so they used other methods. My marriage to Loki was the weakest link. It got attacked, not just by those that would bind me. You see, because Loki is so misunderstood, and I have been writing about that, and I have come to some wonderful understandings about the mythos and the lore. And I've got this paper I've been working on, and whenever I update it, I put the update up at academia.edu so that people who are interested in my research can watch it progress. It's called That Lying Loki, L-A-E, ing, because it's a pun. But because Loki is so misunderstood, too many humans felt like they needed to weigh in on the matter. Meanwhile, and this is my fault, I was too amazed at the event to shut the fuck up and keep it to myself, and I really should have. You see, according to the humans, I needed to dump him because he was evil or I was unworthy. There are others who consider themselves espoused to him that didn't want to share. And way too many took my experience with him, which was a waking event that happened so clearly it was like watching television now with Technicolor, and they belittled it. They even said that I was making it up. This, while pushing forward other lived experiences as canon simply because they were written in an old book. So I got defensive about the matter. And it was partly a defense mechanism. I was under siege after all. It was partly the hormones I was being flooded with by the creatures that were feeding from my emotional roller coaster, and boy did they. I was sad, mad. And they'd come and stand and they'd feed, and sometimes they'd put out like they were eating popcorn or they were drinking tea. I mean, that you would see them feed. You could actually see them feed. They were like, I'm going to sit here and eat popcorn, or I'm going to sit here and drink tea, and I'm rubbing in your face that I am drinking your tears of anguish, and you're too stupid to notice. That is how they do. But, it was also partly misplaced pride. When one of the spirits love bombed me, which I have talked about in the past, but love bombing is a technique spirits use to flood you with hormones and stuff, and I can only call it stuff, so that you literally react like the movies and go, I love you! I had no way out. Jealousy thus came to play, which put me right where the monsters wanted me. And you see, I didn't think I owned Loki. Nor did I think he should not deal with others out there, because I knew those sorts of feelings were wrong. I spent hours and even days pondering what was going on, trying to reconcile and to not be a bitch. And that only worked a little. Between all the forces pressing against me, I found myself pushed into defending my territory. And if you want to know more about that part of the story, I really don't want to hash it out here because then this would become like several hours long. I invite you to find the rest of my stuff. And let me tell you, if you thought Castaneda's stuff sounds off the wall, you ain't heard nothing yet. It gets off the wall. That's part of the spell I was under. You get completely put into this dream. It is literally a fairy dream. Being as I was pushed into defending my territory, that meant getting arrogant when I should never have. That meant diminishing others' experiences just because for them, the perceived bond was touching the mind and a candle flame. Well, I was given every girl's wish and dream. It was a dream that turned into a nightmare, but it was still a dream. Most people don't truly understand spirit spousery in the West. They really don't. We have this idea, this strange idea that comes from, I don't know where, and it has many different origins that all got mushed together through a process some people call Sheilaism. Sheilaism is a term coined by sociologists Robert and Bella and others in their 1985 book, Habits of the Heart. And basically, it is the current modern practice that some will consider neo-paganism of kind of grabbing a little from this religion here and a little from this spiritual path here and kind of making your own path. And your path is kind of a mishmash of all these different, I don't know what you would call them, all these different paths that you have encountered. It's named Sheilaism because there was a woman named Sheila that was being interviewed by the sociologists, and she had done just that. And when they tried to get her to tell them just what exactly was her particular spiritual path called, religion, whatever you call it, she couldn't really give them a name because really she had just kind of made a quilt of everything. So they began to call it Sheilaism. Nowadays, in America at least, spirit spousery is done for fun and profit. It can be ended with a simple word over a candle flame. It's not taken seriously. And this, my guys, is the wrong approach. The reality of spirit spousery is a worldwide phenomenon, by the way. It's been talked about in Mongolia, Peru, and even with the Lebanese. It has estimates of approximately 60 million practitioners worldwide. Spirit spousery is shamanistic. And it's not the same as a nun becoming the bride of Christ. I mean, while both involve a spiritual union, their natures and contexts are different and distinct. I would hope that the nuns aren't hearing spirits coming to them, because then you have to wonder about that. Let's put it that way. You're not marrying a god in the true sense of it. Your spirit spouse is a living entity who has their own reasons to marry you, and it's not a light-hearted matter. It's a serious commitment, even more serious than marriage between two humans. Like I said, it's shamanistic. It's sacred. So now, let me tell you something everyone misses. Loki is shamanistic in an offhand kind of way, offhand blacksmithery kind of way, put it that way. The historians are finally catching on to that too. Archaeologists are catching on, but Loki always knew. Research into shamanism, particularly Scyther, which is an Old Norse term for a type of sorcery or shamanic practice in pre-Christian Scandinavia, has been ongoing for over a century by historians, philologists, and anthropologists. Archaeologists have more recently contributed to this discussion with interpretations of material culture. In other words, they have found shit. While much of this work often focuses on Odin, because even his name, one of the translations that people come out with is the Master of Knowledge, which, by the way, is another way of saying shaman. Loki appears in texts like Lokasenna and Völuspá, which contain oblique references to Scyther. Some scholarship also explores Loki's potential origins from Avat, the domestic spirit, and overlaps with figures like the Ash Lad, suggesting connections to older folk magic elements. So there's direct archaeological evidence, and it's specifically there, but for Loki in particular, it's kind of scarce. So people are like, yeah, and then they kind of thrash their heads about, no, yes, he was never worshipped. No, there was this thing, look, it says Lokathor, that's definitely him. Moving along. So you see, in the old ways, spirit spousery isn't a contract for favors, shadow work, and giggling at a Marvel poster. I'm sorry. It's deeper, it's older, it's binding, and here's the thing. It can hurt. I can tell you that part. It can hurt. It's a very, very, very serious matter, so let me try to break it down for you. This is from my personal experience that just happens to have matched things in the anthropological record that I didn't know was there until I started comparing and contrasting and going, oh my shit, a lot. You guys may not like the end. First, the spirit chooses you for life. This is the very bottom rock foundation of the entire affair. The spirit values something about you, and it can be loyalty, your inner light, your talents, even your demand to be your own person, to be sovereign, to not grovel, to not be reverent. In some traditions, it's explained that the spirit has fallen in love with the beauty of your soul. They don't visually see as how you think. And I know this because they would let me see through their eyes on occasion. It's kind of neat. In other circumstances, there are darker reasons. And while you can approach a spirit to wed, a true spirit marriage often happens because the spirit chose you. And it can be a lifelong commitment. It can be over several lives. It's not a temporary arrangement. A spirit spouse can put literal meaning into tying the knot. For me, and certainly for others out there, my wedding meant Loki and I entwined our spirit lines to create a bridal knot, quotes. Now I'm going to be using some terms that the spirits used. It's a bridal knot. It was where our lines were entangled together. As a matter of fact, I had heard spirits call that being entangled. You, quote, cleave and are cleaved. While this can be bad with some predators, with a wedding, this is supposed to be incredibly intimate. And it can be amazing, and it can suck, and then it can be amazing, and then it can suck, up and down, especially if you value your freedom, or if you feel your freedom has been stolen, or if the bond was forced like I did. A wild Mustang doesn't tame easily because it values the plain. Your heart values freedom in the same way. And they say breaking up is hard to do, but breaking a spirit marriage can be harder than going through a nasty divorce because of this. Recently, in my research, I've come across exorcists discussing the increase in people who have to get help. Many of them because they'd made a pact with a demon, at least that's what the church called it. And some because they no longer want their spirit spouse now that they got the benefits of it, which that's like a tale as old as time. The International Association of Exorcists, the AIE, has warned Pope Leo the 14th about a rise in cases linked to occultism, esotericism, and Satanism, which they believe opens doors and windows to the extraordinary action of the devil. Honest to God. Yep, that's how much it's noticed that the church is warning people within the church about it. It's pretty bad. So, you want to throw your spirit away? Well, let me tell you. When that bond is broken, it can genuinely hurt the spirit, and some of them get a little angry. You don't like getting broke up with, neither do they. You thought a human woman scorned was a bad idea? A spirit scorned has the ability to do things a court of law can't protect you against. You can't just walk away from it without consequence for both sides. You know, the most tragic thing I saw in this was a man undergoing an exorcism while his spouse cried through his lips in grief, "But I love him, but I love him, but I love him, but I love him." She hadn't done anything wrong. You see, he'd married her for the benefits, so she gave him money and prosperity and all these things, and then he didn't want her anymore because he wanted to take a human life, so he was getting rid of her. My heart broke for her. My heart really broke for her. Some spirit partners will fuck with your head, too. In my own experience with Loki, it's because I'm not moving fast enough and training has to happen one way or the other, because when you're doing the shamanistic track, you get trained by the spirits for the most part. And it's got to happen whether I like it or not. But sometimes you end up with a spouse whose intentions aren't quite so pure. Just because they're spirits doesn't mean they won't be a bad partner. Seriously. Your best bet when spirit espoused is to set aside the Judeo-like idea that spirits are to be worshipped. You have to protect yourself. You have to think about yourself too. They are, in the end, people. And in some shamanic traditions, they even talk about their land over there, that it's just rivers and towns and villages, and they live lives just like here. Yeah. So here we have abusive husbands and wives. There's the same danger from over there. And especially where abuse is involved, if the spirit spouse disappears, it can throw you into an entire world of suck. And I'm saying this from experience. When I was love bombed by that other spirit, that flooded me with dopamine and it created an addiction. Then he fucking disappeared and I went crazy calling for him. This wasn't just emotional. It was an energetic withdrawal that left me feeling empty, isolated, and disoriented. Oh my God, it hurt inside. And the point was to make me dependent, gaslight, train, and reshape me into some idea of his. It was trauma bonding at its finest, while being at its worst. In fact, there's some articles I can recommend from Empathy, What is Love Bombing, What is Love Addiction, Annie Wright, Love Bombing, The Neurobiology of the Narcissist Trap, Just Stop Dating, Love Bombing, Divine Alchemist High Priestess, How Trauma Bonds Masquerade as Spiritual Connections, and then Julia Storm, What a Honey Trap Is. What a Honeypot Trap Is. So, it's a waking reality and it's not just dreams. And so far, things aren't looking very good, are they? Although, after a while, I started to see one of my spirits mostly in my dreams. This isn't always the case, because for me, being pushed entirely into the dream state to interact with the spirits was a red flag, because that meant I was getting fettered. When it began, I was able to interact awake. I was able to spirit trance easily. I was able to do things, and they slowly weaned themselves more and more and more and more away. And I noticed. And I was like, my sight is going. And that wasn't the case. It turned out I was getting slowly fettered more and more and more, while I was also being eaten alive. Some people operate magically while dreaming naturally. These are called dreamers in the old way. But true spirit spousery means interacting while you're awake as well sometimes. And I just happen to be one of those kind that has to be awake for some stuff. Also, in my experience, the love bomber in particular could move objects. You could hear him talk with your ears. The Exorcist Association will test people for being possessed, and they actually say that if you can hear with your ears, you're probably psychotic. But I'm pretty sure schizophrenia cannot throw cigarettes at you from across the room, or manipulate a stranger into chasing you across a parking lot to compliment your hair right after you ask if he likes your hair, or throw your cat, or warn you about a wreck, or any number of things. So I think they've got a ways to go with understanding that particular aspect of the spiritual world. I mean, Loki still interacts with me when I drum. He did used to interact with me when I drummed, and I will follow up with that. He would stop by the house briefly, and then he would leave, because he's busy, But you knew he was there in the waking world. And just the other day, he threw catnip at me. Honest to God, he threw catnip. I was sitting there minding my own business, and you could hear it slide off the thing, and it on my head. He threw catnip at me. Another thing about spiritual partners is jealousy and taboo. They can be fiercely jealous and controlling. The jinn in particular are famous for it. Sometimes it comes across as attempts to limit your freedoms, isolating you from other connections, and controlling your activities. And then come the taboos and the rules. In my case, I'm supposed to stay sober, at least when it comes to marijuana. Loki explained that being high made me, quote, look like a clown to the spirits. Isn't that great? Yay! Not all spirit spouses are considered enough to explain themselves. And if you break that taboo, you risk losing your spirit spouse. Seriously, you really do. But that might be a good thing. I will explain. So then there's the benefits in the power exchange. So I was trying to fix things with Loki with the mess that was my spirit spouse mess with Loki, and I took the figurine down that I thought he liked to sit in. And I went through this huge thing of explaining things and everything, and I had come to, can we please start over and just do everything? And what I didn't realize is I was proposing to a different spirit. And so that night he came to me and he said, I accept your proposal and I will lend you my power. It was accidental, damn it. But that's not the point. The point is what the spirit was willing to give me in exchange for my love was his support, his power. And he speaks very archaically. He's a pretty cool little spirit. He's very nice and sweet, very loving. But this is the part everyone grabs for, and they ignore all the rest that I've already warned you about. You can get significant benefits. The spirit buoys you up, teaches you, can protect you, can be a guide, while you provide devotion, your energy, and act as a physical anchor for them in this layer of the realm. But most importantly, the spirit spouse is supposed to be your lodestone and anchor in return. In many spiritual paths, where having a spirit spouse isn't just a status symbol, but is a requirement, you walk alone. And I'm not kidding when I say this, children. You can end up very motherfucking alone. It's hard to relate to people because they don't get it. You end up with one foot in both sides of the door, even more than normal on the shamanic path. You become like more of a psychopomp. You're a creature that's here but not here, and people don't get you. They sometimes try to hurt you. I can vouch for that one. And your spirit spouse, well, you're fucking married, damn it. And this means that you're supposed to be in this together. Their most important job is to keep you from going crazy from loneliness. And yes, to meet physical needs in some cases. You're human. Your body doesn't fucking care that you're doing cool things. It has a healthy baseline to keep. Now, I often wonder if the sacrifice you make to become what you are with them isn't made by them on the other side. Oh, I used to wonder. But there's some things that happened to me this morning that I need to speak about that might reveal that it just depends. And this is the most important thing for you to understand. Spirit spouses are handlers. They are not upgraded spirit guides. You heard me right. They are handlers. They own you. Yeah, I bet that part just sent you reeling. If you were willing to even listen this far. But listen to me, because I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from having watched things from the inside. I'm speaking from having looked at my problem over and over again for like over 12 months. I am not shitting you. Okay, so let me play it down. I mean, if you know what a handler really is. And if you don't know what a handler is, there's someone who handles something, and that would be you. If you need to really get it, go find a circus that still handles animals, or maybe there's a farm with some good cattle dogs for you to observe, or you know what? Find videos of sheepdogs with their masters. That's you. You are the dog. Yep. Bow wow. You get treats, the benefits. You get pets, the affection, sometimes if you're lucky. You get collared, the taboos. The hobbling, because some of them are like, well, we can't let you have your sight because you're too powerful. I actually met someone recently who was like, they took my sight, but it's fine because I really just needed my hearing, and I understand. It's like, you should not understand. They hobbled you. They took something that's rightfully yours. Some handlers don't want you being petted by strange spirits, the jealousy. You bond with your handler. You look to your handler for instruction and even permission, i.e. being guided by the spirits and asking if helping someone is the right thing to do. Good boy. Good boy. You may go with your handler on walks in the dream park. Oh boy, let's go on a shamanic journey, master. And you are expected to perform for and with your handlers. That would be the work. You may be put into your place by whip or prod. For example, your life goes to hell for not venerating properly or I don't know, having the right attitude somehow. To be espoused by a spirit is more than a ball and chain. And you would do well to understand this, especially if you're considering doing it yourself. There are spirits out there that mean well and that would treat you well and probably would not go the wrong way. But you haven't exactly known them for 30 years. And if people can surprise you, so can a freaking spirit. So you would do well to understand and remember that. So back to my situation in this, with people pushing me into making decisions they felt were best, often without knowing me, or actually trying to break my bridle knot themselves, my back felt to the wall. But the love bombing was what did me in. I was literally a day away from divorcing Loki when that happened. Then I'm under the spell, so I'm examining what it meant to have been wed to the most famous trickster of our age. And I admit, I often made a mockery of kids out there who have no idea what they're doing. They light a candle, they hide their altar under their bed, they make an arrangement with a spirit that they think might be Loki, or they're sure is Loki, but is he really? And I'm going to quote what one of the spirits said to me when I wrote this, call it love. Quote, call it love. Now, I should not have done that. I shouldn't have been so horrible. It isn't that I was wrong to look at those situations and recognize them for what they were. Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, it was born as a defense mechanism against the sheer pain. And let me tell you, pain, oh my God, pain and hurt in my heart, and even danger I was in. And I was endangered. Yes, it was fueled by negative spirits and entities who did not belong in my space. Yes, I was under a very strong spell. Yes, it's up to me to grow the fuck up and realize where I'd gone wrong. But owning my own bullshit doesn't change the mechanics of the Orlog, the force all around us. Others call it Tao, some call it Ba. When you weave the weird, you're weaving it. When you and a spirit entangle, that is also a weaving. So I still stand by the fact that my wedding was an actual wedding. I will still make a comment that what I have endured was not putting a hidden altar in my room with a candle. In fact, I will continue to say that because the distinction must be made and taught. Despite my natural sarcasm and humor, I realize elevating myself with it is imbalanced as all fuck out. It's how I chose to elevate my own situation above them. That was my arrogance. Being an ass about it kept me from looking at myself, and thus my situation, to be able to tell you guys why that candle and altar was not a wedding. Yes, you contacted a spirit. Yes, you two made an agreement towards something. You offered devotion. The spirit offered shadow work or something equally useful. But you did not exchange goblets or the equivalent, have a true wedding ceremony, or form a bridal knot. You made something else. Now, do you know what this is, kids? It's a pact. It's a working arrangement. Something more in tune with hiring a freelance contractor, and oh, thank goodness if that's as far as you went. Trust me on this one. The biggest problem about it all is calling a basic pact a marriage doesn't just dilute the word, it's dangerous. It encourages people to be careless with the rest of their lives. It glamorizes what is otherwise a pretty tough situation to navigate. It treats the spirits like they're vending machines to be thrown away when all the good things have been gotten, and that part's pretty disgusting. And if you walk into the wild weird looking for a casual boyfriend and accidentally trigger a real cleaving, you are going to get torn apart by the reality of what you signed up for. There's a reason why Loki asked me the following. Do you understand what this means? The first time we wove together. He didn't ask if I knew. He asked if I understood. Spoiler, I did not, and I paid for it. Seriously, I thought I was daydreaming. Oh my God, I could just die. I thought I was daydreaming and I had no idea I was interacting with him. I was that new to the game. Oh. Know what you're doing. Know what you're asking for. And for the love of the gods, know the difference between a contract and a cleaving. Please, for your own sake. And also know the dangers. Aside from getting into a marriage you realize you don't want now that you're no longer 15 and have grown into a mature 17, 20, or even 35, there's imposters that float around waiting for you to make promises you don't intend to keep. They don't intend to keep them. Trust me on this one. They don't. They don't. That's identity theft on a cosmic scale. Because a spirit marriage operates on such an energetic way, it kind of paints a massive bullseye on your back for fakers. And I'm talking about parasites, handlers, and opportunistic worms who will literally put on your spouse's face and walk right through your front door. These are things that I talk about on my blog and in this podcast again and again and again. These are the fakers that tell you that they're Loki, Apollo, or your long-lost love from another dimension, waiting for you to buy it, counting on those people who sincerely believe the gods can't be impersonated to push it on you, and ride your energy like a donkey when the deed is done. And I lived this. That spirit who put me through the trauma bond grinder let me believe he was Loki. He fooled the absolute shit out of me. How did he do it? He waited until I got drunk one night, and he let me make assumptions based on the lore that Loki was a shapeshifter. Discernment was thrown right out the window before I had a chance to bat an eye. They're smart, these things. They will mimic things enough, just enough. Why? Because they want to isolate you, feed on your output, and steer you right into a cage while you think you're just being a devoted partner. Then there's the fact that you've made a serious commitment. Now, there are ways to divorce your spouse, but the amount of people who know how to do that properly are even less than the amount of people who understand the concept of having a spirit spouse in the first place. And the only reason, and I mean the only reason I'm still married to Loki, was still married to Loki, is that I came across a blog telling the world that once you are married to him because of his godly godness and what he supposedly represents, which, by the way, I don't agree with now that I've done a whole lot of research, you're stuck forever. Lucky for Loki, I guess, because this means I chafed under the knot until he wooed me completely over. But my own arrogance, as I mentioned, was already brewing from the imposter's love bombing and the stuck forever lie, not from Loki's true nature. Here's where my own arrogance comes back into this, because it wasn't only fear or misinformation that kept me there. It was also me, and how that arrogance shaped my approach to this very marriage. Despite being someone who ponders, and I ponder a lot, I ignored my feeling that something wasn't right, at least until it got so bad I couldn't handle it, and then by that time nobody was listening to me, even though I was going around saying, something's not right, no, it's a test, your soul is just resting. So then I ended up elevating myself too far to look at what was wrong. Instead, I went on quests to find things that made it right. Once I had accepted the premise that I was trapped forever, I thought I could make it make sense. I admit I was flattered too, and a little delighted when a spirit called me Loki's wife in the dream as if to reinforce the illusion. But overall, I was overwhelmed. I looked for help, but when I talked about the situation, nothing made sense. So I stayed and instead told myself this was because I was the one. It wasn't that I was trapped, it's that I was special. Trust me, the things around me were all for that. Remember in the beginning when I said your ego and all that is how they keep you trapped? Oh my God, the games they played with my head. But anyway, I was special. Just not the right kind of special, if you know what I mean. And once the love bombing happened, I no longer wanted out. I wanted him, but it wasn't Loki. I bowed to him, but it wasn't Loki. I called him master. He made me call him master. And I was encouraged to be arrogant about it because he had chosen me. He stayed with me. I was his. Nothing could tear us apart, he told me. I was his troth. This is the part that probably irritates me the most now. I let someone else's proclamation about what Loki supposedly was define the limits of my own personal agency, my own personal sovereign path, my choices. I let their arrogance and their belief fuel my own. And then when I was about to turn heel and come to my senses, I was captured in the most foul of foul plays. And I should have known better, and I did it first. I would never have told someone else, well, you made a vow once, and now you're stuck forever no matter what. I would never have told someone else that their consent had an expiration date. I would never have told someone else that a powerful being's nature mattered more than their own right to say yes, no, stay, leave, renegotiate, or demand better. And that's arrogance too, by the way. It's almost as bad as someone telling you to stop screaming in agony while your intestines literally burst inside of you because you might frighten someone, and yes, that has happened to me. It's almost as bad as being told losing your children isn't as bad as giving them away, and that has also happened recently, actually. Or the arrogance. I mean, the freaking language policing arrogance of someone telling someone else what words they should or should not say. And in this day and age, I'm pretty sure that might have happened to you by now. Let's hope that you haven't participated in it. And I've talked about this before, but it warrants a little context here. The imposter didn't just love bomb me. Spirits around me fed me massive ego-inflating bullshit. They led me to believe I was the mother of the gods, no kidding. And because I'm the type to research, I dug into it, found the obscure lore that actually backed it up, and the trap snapped shut even tighter. I was fucked. It was fucked. And my house had become a war zone. So there I was, under constant attack from covens, exhausted, keeping this grand secret to myself, and looking at other people thinking, you're all idiots. That was the arrogance there. This self-conflation, well, it became my armor. But when a goetic friend and his crew finally broke the spells those covens had over me, I did get a breather. The air cleared. The lies were still sitting right there, but it was like I could finally think. And I had a choice. Now, I could have clung to the narrative. I could have kept telling myself how special I was to protect my pride. But you know what? I'm a curious sort, so I got curious, and I became more interested in what was actually going on than in how special the story made me feel. Actually, I had stopped feeling special a while back because the roller coaster ride was, And you know what? It was like a certain voice was whispering to me too. A little itty bitty echo that had been silent for too long. But I chalked it all up to the spirits, the love bomber's attentions, and it wasn't that this had been drowned out, I told myself. It's that the story had changed. No, this had been drowned out, huh? I'd grown. No. I was more in my power. No. I was even less in my power than when it began. Insert arrogance here. Insert self-serving lie. I don't see an elephant. Where's an elephant? But now I had a voice whispering to me, and it said the following. Do you remember how you loved the work of Dr. Carla Turner? Dr. Carla Turner tracked cases like this, but with the UFO abduction contactee phenomenon. And she tracked a lot of nasty things. And the white lighters who are stuck in their egos shuttered her down until the day she died of cancer. Her work is phenomenal. It's old, and there's been more strides since then. It's hard to find people who are willing to look at stuff with a no-nonsense, common sense point of view without getting their egos involved or trying to esotericize this or white light or woo-woo everything. Let's bring in the runes and do stuff with the runes. So even though some of her stuff is not as completed as now, I highly recommend her work, Dr. Carla Turner. And my voice also whispered, do you remember the patterns she and Eve Lorgan had tracked, which would be the alien love bite and love bombing? Isn't it weird, said my voice, how everything sounds familiar? So, when I stepped outside the ego to listen to that little voice, I asked my friend, have you heard of the alien love bite? And the world broke wide open. Now, I really don't want to go into the alien love bite too deeply here, but basically, a lot of Eve Lorgan's research is a little bit mundane with mundane people, so you don't really miss it. But when you find a good interview with her, she'll talk about how it's on a more spiritual, what she calls alien level. People will have their lives guided in order to produce particular children. They will have their relationships torn apart. They will be put together, basically treated like livestock, which is what Carla Turner had also tracked. It's pretty messy. Have a barf bag handy when you start looking into that. But you know what? When the world broke wide open, you could feel the things break. I mean, literally, you could feel it break. It was like a bubble popping. So that's why I call it my Rumpelstiltskin moment, because I named the problem, and just like in the story of Rumpelstiltskin, off it went. The arrogance was the glue holding the illusion together. And the second I traded being special for cold curiosity, the spell broke. Well, my arrogance also held me together, but it was holding me down. Now, I probably needed it at first. Trust me, being love-bombed ain't no joke. Fortunately, hormones fade, and the love bomber got bored and weaned himself away over time. Well, he had some lessons to give me, too. When it comes to the love bomber, things are so messy that I'm kind of... At first, I used to say, oh, he was such a devil, but now I look at the situation, and I'm casting squinting eyes in his direction, so I'm not sure. That would be a super, super long story. So, I mean, there's also, perhaps he thought his job was done and could watch things move forward. I mean, who knows with assholes like that? But I won't deny there have been many times I've tried to woo him back because I missed him. I don't think he's coming back. Might be a good thing. Might not be. It's hard to tell. See, I had to be willing to get off the pedestal I'd been tricked into building and believing. The moment I put my feet onto solid ground, the lies did not have a leg to stand on. And yet, I sit here aware that for all I didn't have a choice, my arrogance was still mine. Sure, I'd been abused and pushed into it. Sure, I was in a bad situation. But also, sure, I look down on people who have no idea what spirit spousing actually is. I scoffed at those who are harming themselves and adding to the confusion so that others can be hurt. That's on me. So again, I will still snarkily say that my wedding to Loki was a real event, not some movie poster-packed candle ritual misunderstood as a wedding. It came with a lot of baggage, weight, lore, and just stuff. But you do you. Just do it informed. Do you understand what you're doing means? Make that pact. Work with the great master of shadow work, but don't fool yourself about what you're doing. Don't be foolish. Stay friends. The romance will kill everything. Not every spirit encounter is a cosmic lesson, an act of destiny, or some other fantastic storytell element. They don't have to be for us to learn how to be better people. I look at how I sneered at those who don't know what they're getting into while being eaten alive by the very thing I didn't know I had gotten into. And I realized that my own arrogance is the mechanism for a humbling and how they held me down. It's not a huge humbling, mind you. Nope, nope, nope. At the time I wrote that, I was still wed to the trickster, and I was so aware he was going to get me later. And then I'll hit him with a broom. It's love language. It's just really important that we understand that the fad of spirit spousing should not be a fad. If you're working with someone who's very young, who thinks they have spirit spouse to an entity, it doesn't have to be Loki, it could be any number of entities, you might want to show them this, especially the part where spirit spouses become handlers. In my own case, it's a little confusing, and I admit that I spent some time shedding tears this morning about the matter, because I was so attacked and so confused and under such the gun by humans, people, shamans who were supposed to know better, covens and spirits and mimickers and everything, that everything got all confused. I look at the event with Loki, and there's some truth there, and then there's all the rest. I was never given affection by him like a spirit spouse should do, but the love bomber gave me a lot of affection. And there were so many pretending to be Loki. I only just realized recently that what was happening is I was getting passed around like a pack of cigarettes or a slut at a party. There's a thing that I got yelled at recently. Well, whenever you're doing shamanic work, you're supposed to only be a intermediary. You're not supposed to be, admitting you do work or whatever. And I recently have been fighting for the right to remember things because, like, it's just supposed to be lucid dreaming, but the beings I was dealing with would actually shut down the dreams and would give me cover memories and stuff and all these things that I had studied and I already knew about. And it's like, you guys, the gig is up. I know what you're doing. So that I got to see what I do in my shamanic work in the dreamland. Let me tell you what that is. Is it healing? Is it lighting the nodes like I had been led to believe in the beginning? Was it any of those things that shamans talk about in their dreams, like when all the nodes are lit, said one recently told me, while the other one's going, we have all these nodes to light, and don't you guys think there's a little something odd that your stories don't match, but you're supposed to be working on the same nodes? You guys need to really, really seriously take a look. Well, this is what I was doing. And I had a feeling, because I would do little things like when I was going back to sleep after waking up, I would go, one more stop, and my handler would say, one more stop. We walked up to a farm in the dream world, and there's a farmer there, and he's dealing with bags of fruit. Conversations were had, and the farmer says, well, I have some Indian chestnuts. Now, I don't know. I'm guessing on the chestnut part, what I thought to myself was, why are you sticking my people in boxes? But he didn't mean India like my kind. He meant India like the country. We walked over to where he indicated, and there's this place where some fruit had fallen, and the handler picked up the bag, and the bag split open, and everything fell, so he immediately starts to go pick it up. Well, that was the first time I got to see him with my eyes that I knew of, because he always made it a point to stand behind me. And I had been so abused over the past year that it triggered every little red flag I had, so I looked at him and said, I do not know who you are, and that pulled me out of the dream, so I was able to remember this event. Where is the healing, guys? Where are the lighting of the nodes? Where's the flying? Where's all the shamanic, magical, fantastic work of the calling, the fantastic and magical calling you're supposed to have had? No, I was the horse and cart. It is well known in many traditions and almost buried now under fluff and light that many, many times, like most of the time, whenever you're captured the way I was, poached is what my friend called it. You're not being poached for all that kind of stuff. You're not brought in. They pulled in a thoroughbred, and they've got me hooked to a plow. And then this other spirit came to me later because they've, pushing that line, and she was telling me about offerings to spirits and how things from the people go up into the spirit's aura. And she said, and that is called the skama of the spirits. So I get out of bed and I go and I research it, and I find the old Saxon, not Anglo-Saxon, which is older, but old Saxon word skama. It is one of the words that turned into shyama, which is Anglo-Saxon, which is now our word for shame. You see, back in those days when the church was coming over, it took me a little time and a couple articles to know about this part. Back in those days, when the church was coming in, those people, we had a symbiotic relationship with the spirits. We had a reciprocal exchange. Thankfulness is like saying, I appreciate you, is standing tall. I appreciate you. It is not taking things for granted and using them. The church came in trying to explain reverence, but there was no word for reverence in the old language. Understand this. There was no word for it. We did not have it. This idea of reverence that people thrust now that want you to do to the spirits and the gods, it's inaccurate. So what the church did is they grabbed the word skama, and they basically took reverence and mixed it in with shame. So when you go back in the records, you will find that reverence is mixed with shame. Reverence is associated with shame, and it is not the same as honoring. I was also given dreams about how inverted the language is and how you have to literally bend upside down backwards and stand on your hands and have your head hanging upside down to understand the message now. That's how inverted everything has become. Inverted on purpose, if you listen to what I just said. Not because it, naturally happened, but because culture clashed and one culture took over another and destroyed so much. The skama of the spirits. The shame of the spirits. The reason why I'm on the fence about the love bomber is something I haven't really talked about, but I'll talk about now because it's important. Love bomber, the very first thing he did was try to make me stand tall. He wanted me to stand tall and strong, to step up into my power and be strong and use gifts that I already knew I'd had all my life, so I wasn't being given new gifts, and to do stuff and to command things. And I didn't want to do that because I wanted to be what some traditions call small. I wanted to take a Taoist point of view to the world. I wanted to go, excuse me, I want to be humble. And Love Bomber did not want that for me. And so then he showed me, by introducing me to many spirits, that to be small is a really bad slur. It's worse than the N-word to the spirits when you're small. When you're a flea, I had a turtle get into the house, for example, a turtle spirit. And I was worried about the fleas, and suddenly the turtle's in my face. Me, I'll eat the fleas. Oh, okay, thank you. Please eat the fleas. I hate fleas. That was where the culture clash came in, because to him, fleas was anything small, so he ate a lot of my spirit helpers. You must understand that to be tiny is really bad. I put my tinfoil hat back on recently, and I rejoined Project Camelot and Avalon, and in the forum. And there were people in there talking about it to me. And they were like, yeah, some of those spirits call me a grain, as in a grain of rice. Some spirits call you a speck. It all means the same thing. You are tiny. And tiny is a really bad slur. The skama of the spirits. To be small is to be skama. Because when you say, I am a small thing, you are being reverent, worshipful, overly small, and you are doing that thing, the skama of the spirits. This was according to what I was taught this morning, and so far what I've researched is tracked. I haven't really completely got all the information together yet, so understand that my mind may change tomorrow or even next week, but this is what it looks like so far. You can look it up yourself, skama, S-K-A-M-A, skama. When she said it to me, she even showed me the spelling. But she was meaning whenever reverence was first attached to our language, skama. And she was talking about how your gratitude goes. She showed me the mechanics of when you say, thank you, spirits, of how the energy is exchanged. Reverence is not the same thing as honoring and just being thankful. So that over the past several months, I kept wondering why it was whenever one of the Castadata called them flyers, so I'm going to use his term because they do fly. One of the flyers came at me, and they would be doing something, and they would be pretending to be good, only for it to blow it up in my face later. I would say, I appreciate you, and they would recoil, because that was reciprocal. That put me on equal standing to them. They can't stand that. They want you to be small because when you're small, you're controllable. They want you to worship. They want you to be reverent. And everything that has to do with them, because they look and act like angels, if you look at it, all of it is centered around being small, reverent, and worshipful, and in awe, and allowing them to elevate themselves above you and tell you what you are or not. So the love bomber had me learn this, and I hated it. Oh, I was so mad that the other spirits, the little folk, would not the same as small, were being called this and stuff. And I ended up, the drama. But then things happened, and I lost contact with the Loki that I traded goblets with, and being traded around and stuff. Who knows what's what? I mean, he does still stop by once in a while, and he has a different feel. There's a thing that happens whenever he arrives, so you know it's really him. But then there's this problem, and I didn't know it at the time, but apparently in the path that I'm learning, it's taboo to play your shaman drum outdoors. Well, I had went outdoors because I had to leave the house to try to get around the isolation and traps to go ask for help from the local spirit shamans. And they said to me, but you are so-and-so's property. That's how bad it is when you end up owned. And I'm not owned as far as I'm concerned. I'm kidnapped as far as I'm concerned. I am my own property. Thank you very the fuck much. Okay, they poached me without my consent, and I can tell you how they hunted me and stalked me across the ether. These flyers that I didn't know at the time was something other people had tracked, but now it's too late. I just thought they were angels. That's an important lesson from my love bomber. So that I have to really wonder what he was trying to do. And to be honest, one minute it looks like he was trying to save me. Next minute not so much. Maybe there was a second love bomber, who knows? It was that big of a mess. I want to say truthfully that I'm still wed to my Loki because I truly love him. But things are so messed up that this morning I just told myself he wasn't real. And after I kick some assholes to the curb, if Loki's real, he'll come back. But for your sake, when you get in this situation, your best bet is to make it a point that you are your own person. And they'll do things. They put you to sleep. They'll make it where you don't remember. I didn't have a dream. Yes, you did. I had a dream about a story. That was probably a screen memory. I had a dream about a dream about a dream. That was definitely a screen memory. I had a reoccurring dream. Definitely a screen memory. I'm fighting the good fight, and I'm looking for other people who wish to fight the what they're commonly known as archons or pushback. There's a whole lot of meditate your problems away. Yes, there are things in the Tao that will help you be free. I want to restore the balance on this world so badly. There are stories that talk about when they came, and I hope in a future podcast to tell you one of them. But the bottom line of this is, probably you should not just walk into a spirit spousing situation. There are people that their spirit spouses treated them very well and they wanted to break it up, and then they ended up with all hell breaking loose because that spirit spouse wasn't happy. There's the rise and exorcisms that's having to be performed. There's what happened to me. There's people I'm meeting that's very clearly it's happening to them, and you just have to sit there and not say anything because their ego is just too inflated. They'll never hear you. And if you try, it'll just make it worse. There's your teacher moving goalposts on you constantly, yelling at you over imaginary stuff and not listening to you. I mean, there's a lot going on. Spirit spousery. Yeah, it's not a fad, guys. It should not be a fad. Don't treat it like a fad. No one's telling you not to do it. I'm telling you to walk in informed. You really need to ask, do you understand what this means? Listen to Loki, my children. Listen to Loki, my friends. Listen to Loki, my fellows. Do you understand what this means?
I beheld a sign, frigate spindle spun a vision, threads of fate entwine, Odin's eye. shadow on the foam. Freya's tears fell in the dew and called my heart to roam. White blooms in the morning mist, three pink within the fold, a bouquet bound by memory, by stories never told. Your laughter low-key flickered bright, a flame against the frost. I followed where your footfalls led, not counting what was lost. You are my troth, my heart's own oath, my soul's unbroken ring breaker of worlds, my shapeshifter, the song I rise to sing through storm and strife. In every life your name is woven close. You are my troth, my chosen truth, my harbor and my ghost. We quarreled on the windswept shore, the sea steeds mooring strain. Your words a tempest in my chest, left only longing's pain. Yet in the hush of midnight's watch I heard your voice return, a whisper in the kettle steam, a promise slow to burn. I stirred the gruel with careful hand, a humble lover's art, each grain a rune of patience, each stir a mending heart. You came a shadow at the door, with laughter in your eyes, and in the sharing of the bowl our anger turned to sighs. You are my troth, my heart's own oath, my soul's unbroken ring breaker of worlds, my shapeshifter, the song I rise to sing through storm and strife. In every life your name is woven close. You are my troth, my chosen truth, my harbor and my ghost. In dreams I sail the whale road sweep, past lives adrift in mist, 1,000 dawns, 1,000 deaths, each one by you was kissed. Odin's raven circle high, Frigg's loom recalls our thread, Freya's blush in petals three, the love that is not dead. The ship at last has found its key, the anchor's song is low. I step ashore to find you there, where white and pink blooms grow. The world remade, the troth retold, in every breath anew. I pledge my heart, my shapeshifter, my troth is ever you. You are my troth, my heart's own oath, my soul's unbroken ring breaker of worlds, my shapeshifter, the song I rise to sing through storm and strife. In every life your name is woven close. You are my troth, my chosen truth, my harbor and my ghost. You are my troth, my dawn, my oath, my